Buddy, I'm David Simpson. I run a company called Mainstream Marketing. I know quite a few of you around this table this morning. And what I'm going to present today is what I call a new business calculator. So a lot of people say to me, they give me a brief because they want a new business of some description through somehow. Now my company has grown out of a telemarketing company. And about 75% of what we currently do is still telemarketing. Excuse me, the rest of it is social media, email marketing, etc., 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 loads of online promotion. We actually help people network as well. I had a networking presentation that I've given here that maybe some of you have seen. But today it's just a very, very brief introduction to how you can get new business through telemarketing. Okay, so we've got one volunteer here, Jane, who's good at numbers, but forgot a calculator.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can use that one.
So.
I'll be calling out to you, Jane, to do some maths in due course.
Okay.
Right, so the first thing you need to do, before you do anything, you need to actually understand how much business, how much revenue, how much turnover do you need in a given period of time. So if we've got revenue up this axis, let's call it a year along there. You start off month one with that sort of turnover, you can't help that, that's where you are now. So where do you want to be? Presumably, you want to increase turnover to whatever figures that you decide that you want. As most of you here are established businesses, you've already got a client base. That client base will continue, usually, to give you revenue. And again, in most instances, it will decline over time. So this is your current clients and the sort of revenue they'll give you over the course of a year. So as you can see, a bit of a shortfall. And that shortfall now needs to be taken up with new business. Okay, this is not brain surgery, yeah, and I'm sure everybody can actually follow that. So the point of this is you have to know where you're going to start from, and you have to know where it is you want to finish up. And if at any time you want to interrupt me, just say so. So, in simple terms, and I'm going to generalise like mad in this presentation, some of it may be relevant to your particular businesses, some of it may not, but the premise will always hold true. So, as I say, the first thing you've got to work out is what is your revenue target for the year. All right, and now I'm going to sort of pick on people to give me some figures. So get ready, Jane.
Okay.
You can actually give me real figures if you want, or you can just make figures up. I'm not fussed, but would someone like, for the purpose of demonstration anyway, just to give me a revenue target for a year, and we'll work through the calculation.
I'll give you 240,000 a year.
Okay. Let's do that in red. Right, and let's also assume that it's sterling. Yeah, because if it's euros, it'll have to be quite a lot more, I think, in a few weeks' time. Okay, so £240,000 is your revenue target for the coming 12 months. The first thing you've got to ask yourself is, do you even know your average sale value?
7,000.
You may answer again if you so wish. So, on average, each sale that you make, you generate £7,000. Can you guess the first calculation here, Jane?
The number of orders.
What I need to get
34.
What we need to get to is, this is the number of orders you need to achieve this year. So if you want £240,000, divided,
34.
how many, 34? So you need to make 34 sales over the course of that 12-month period to get your revenue target. Now, I'll stay with you, John. Is that achievable?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a fairly realistic example we're going through.
Yeah.
Good, okay. Right, 34 orders. Does anyone else want to join in, or shall I stay with John?
Stay with John, he knows what he's talking about.
Okay. You see, there's me thinking that you did
Otherwise,
this.
it's incoherent.
Okay, so John, do you know, or just give me a figure, what percentage of your proposals, yeah, assuming you don't close 100% of everything you see,
I would say 70-30.
you close 70 or close 30?
30.
You close 30. Right, everybody apart from John, what do you think of that figure, 30% closing rate? Is that good? Is that bad? Is that average?
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's quite good actually.
It's not good.
Yeah.
I would say that's pretty good actually.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, it's what I would expect, put it that way. So again, you know, these are coming out to be very, very realistic figures.
Well, usually he said that it's just 10%.
Sorry?
Usually, well, what I heard or what I read is that usually you achieve the 10%. So
you achieve
30% then is a high.
Okay, well it's going to be different for different industries and it's going to be different
Yeah.
for different people. And it's probably different for different people over a period of time as well. So, but I think that's a fair average, being honest with you. So what we now need to work out is the number of proposals that are needed in any one year to achieve your sales revenue. Just going back to that figure. So you need to close 34. Can you do that calculation for me, please, Jane?
No. What am I doing? 34.
30% of 34.
That's 30, and that is 30%, so divide that by 0.3.
What are you saying? The 30% of 20, the 30% of 24 you want to do?
Let me go back. We need to achieve,
113.
that sounds about right to me.
Yeah.
You need to achieve 34 orders. You need 34 orders over the course of the year. Okay. In order to achieve those 34 orders, you need to put out a number of proposals. And you're not going to close every single proposal. Okay. So the figure we've got is for each proposal that goes out, 30% will close. So therefore you need to gross that up to 113, did you say? So you need, over the course of the year, to generate 100, just over 100, 113 proposals to net down to your figure of 34 sales.
Yes, but then I don't know, I don't understand the 30% of what, of which amount.
Okay.
In other words,
If you go to 100 sales meetings, you've got 100 appointments, sales appointments, yeah? Will you close all of them?
No.
Okay, how many will you close out of those 100?
Usually what I read is the 10%. You close the 10% of 100.
Okay, so you close 10%,
Yes.
John will close 30%.
Ah,
Right? And the figure that we're using for the example today is John's 30%.
Ah, all right.
Okay? So if your figure is 10%, that will change to 10%.
All right.
Okay, which will then affect all these figures
All right.
that we're just about to work out. Yeah.
Yes, but then you assume that, yeah, all right. Yeah, it's what.
It's
the
different
whole
for
amount,
each
100.
person.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
different for each industry. It's different for each company.
Mm.
If you're an established company, you'll have those sales figures. So you just track back over your history, yeah, and you say, okay, well, if I do the same again in terms of of closing, what do I need? Where do I need to be? Right, and we're saying for the purpose of this example, you need to achieve 113 proposals to net down to your 34 sales. Now then, to get to the proposal stage, again, I'll stick with you, John, yeah? How many appointments do you need? How many sales appointments do you need, yeah, to actually get a proposal? Because you'll go along to some meetings and they'll possibly say, well, you know, we haven't got any budget, yeah, or we just don't fancy using you, or we've changed our minds. It could be all sorts of different reasons why you would not get a proposal. So from every sales meeting you go to, what percentage do you think then goes on to become a proposal?
I would double the 113.
Okay, I can do this one, Jane.
Solidly.
So, we're now at the situation where we need 226 sales appointments to get to our revenue figure. 226. How many is that a week, please, Janie? Divide that by 52.
Yeah. 226. 4.4. 4.3.
4.3 a week. You see, it's funny how this turns out, because normally, no matter who I'm speaking to, it normally works out between 4 and 5 appointments a week. One a day. One a day. Right? It's just the general rule of thumb. So I'm glad in a live example, if you like, we're actually getting to round about where we should be. Okay. Now, I don't know if you use telemarketing for your business. I don't know if you can even see the question from there, but what percentage of your telemarketing calls result in a sales appointment?
This is a real tough one. A lot of my time is spent cold calling, knocking door to door. That's my job.
Okay.
The chances of actually getting to see the person you need to are very remote. Occasionally they will present themselves. And the people I don't see, I send up a compliment to the telemarketing guys, or teleappointing people. And I would say, if I do 30 cold calls a week, I would imagine I'd get about 5 appointments.
Okay, I think that's quite a high ratio, actually. Yeah, I think that's a very high ratio.
They're very good on the phone.
So well done, if that's a realistic thing.
It is fairly realistic, but it's when you go back to actually then seeing the client and straight away it's a no-brainer that there's just no help for them.
Okay. If I may, yeah, from experience, let me put on a more realistic, because 30 calls in a week is probably not enough to even measure effectiveness, if you like. Yeah. 5% roughly is round about the number of the amount of success you will have in a telemarketing campaign. What do you think of that, Lisa? That figure?
I've done more than that.
Okay. Well, without boasting.
No, I'm not trying to boast. Sorry. I actually think your figures are pretty accurate.
Okay.
From experience, knowing the market as I do.
Okay.
The thing's also dependent on if you're doing completely blind phone calls, or you're actually picking a market. You know, you've actually got recommended recommended calls to make. I think that's obviously your hit rate's going to go up.
Absolutely, it depends on so many things. I mean, if you're list cleaning, for example, right, your ratio could be closer to 100%.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're talking at the other end of the scale to chairman of GLCs, top FTSE 100 or
That
whatever,
goes down.
that will go down even. You know, you'd be talking less than 1%. Yeah, exactly. So, for the sake of just the example today, if we can average that sort of thing out, and it depends on so many things, 5% is probably about realistic. Okay. So what we now need to do is work out the number of telemarketing calls you need to achieve your target. So, we need to make 226 sales appointments over the course of a year. Okay, that will net down to 34 orders, and that is the important figure. That's the figure that we're working to. That's the point of all this maths. So can you on the calculator, please, Jane, do 226, which is the number of appointments, by 5%, divide by 0.05?
452.
How many?
452,000. I've gone wrong. 226.
It's probably, don't worry about decimal
Yeah,
point,
there's
right?
400.
It's probably,
Yes, it is.
doing it in my head, it's probably about 4,500 calls.
Yeah.
Now, does that sound like a lot of calls? Does it sound?
It's over a year though, isn't it, you're talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah.
It's over a year.
So if you divide that by 12, that's monthly calls per year, per month.
Well, I was going to say, let's start breaking it down. Let's start breaking it down, because 30 calls with the greatest of respect in a week is not really a telemarketing campaign. Yeah. That's what a salesperson perhaps would do to generate a bit of extra business. Sorry, Jane, I need your assistance once again.
376
Pardon?
divided by 12.
Divided by 12 is how many?
376.6.
376.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you just divide by divide that by 52 for me, please? 4520.
Sorry, gone wrong.
4520 divide by 52.
87.
Is that 87 calls a week, David?
It's 87, as it says there, 87 calls per week. So again, let's put this into perspective. John, you're doing 30, roughly.
Yeah, this is cold calls, sending
Yeah,
information up. Yeah.
And this is
they
just by
have
way of example.
activities,
This
yeah.
is just by way of example. All you've got to do is up that by a factor of 3. Yeah, and you know you're going to get your business target for the year. When you put it in those sort of terms, it's not much.
And 87 isn't a great deal. I know the girls in our office have to do at least 60 a day. Calls a day.
Again, when I start costing stuff, and if I can just average campaigns out over the year, the people who work for me will do roughly 80 calls a day over all sorts of campaigns. And again, within that, you've got campaigns that only do 10 calls a day, you've got other campaigns that do 120, but 80 something is a fair average. That is one day's work. That is just one day's work. And I've got quite a few people on my books at the minute who just employ me and my team for 1 day a week, after having gone through that example. Having said that, we've got many, many large companies as well, and huge organisations like the European Union, who have a number of people working for them, if you like, full-time, and other international blue chips and what have you. But to try and put it into perspective for today, and today's audience, you're talking about 1 day a week. And that relates back to £240,000?
Yeah.
This is a rhetorical question, but how much would you be prepared to pay for 1 day a week? Rhetorical. To achieve your target of nearly £250,000 quid.
David, can I just, sorry, can I just ask you a point of clarification there? When you talk about 87 calls per week, is that actually talking to 87 people? Actually,
Or is it 87 dials?
Yeah.
Right, let's go back and look at the actual question.
Just whilst you're doing that, I'll just leave the breakfast with you. I didn't have a croissant, but I've got a tea cake, which I hope is okay. Sorry about that. I don't know if I need another coffee.
Are they all bacon, are they? Sausage.
Number of calls you need to make, or is this the number of dials? And if we just refer back to the question, what percentage of your telemarketing calls, result in a sales appointment? Right, so it's not the number of people you speak to, it's the number of calls, number of dials, however you want to express it. I'll take more questions. If there are any.
That's stunning.
Okay. To be absolutely honest, this is a very simplified version of the sort of things that we go through. There's many things to consider, such as target audience, geography perhaps, many other things. But if you just do something as basic as that to start with, you can net it down and see what it is you actually need to do on a weekly basis, or preferably outsource it to someone like yourself.
Yeah, your question was, what would you pay for a day's work?
That was a rhetorical question, and actually, I'd like to think the people that work for me, because they're specialists in this field, would probably have a better result than someone else perhaps in this room doing it, because that's not what you do for a living.
No, it's not, and I'm useless at that task.
So,
Excuse me.
so thank you. It was just a brief presentation, just something very simple. Hope you can relate it to your own businesses, and if you'd like me to meet up with you, just so we can go through a similar sort of exercise but make it more relevant for yourselves, then I'm more than happy to do so.
Do your girls specialise in any particular field, or they're just very good marketeers, telemarketing people?
Okay. When we first started about 14 years ago, we used to specialise in IT and financial services. IT because it was their traditional route to market, financial services because they had a lot of money to spend on marketing, and I had a background in financial services as well as marketing. So I knew a lot of people there. Over the years, it has become completely non-specialist. We get inquiries from just about every sector of business. And as I say, you know, if you look at our profile of clients, it will range. Our biggest client is the European Union, without a doubt. I mean, you're not going to get an organisation much bigger than that, full stop. Down to one-man, two-man bands. To answer your question directly, there are some people who really like and are very good at customer care, that type of telemarketing. There's other telemarketers who prefer to work on appointment making because they enjoy the chase. Yeah. So although everybody can do the job very well, in my opinion, you will get people who specialise in certain aspects.
Yes. So, say I came to you and said I wanted to run a telemarketing campaign. How would it work? Would I come to you, sort of, we can bounce around a few ideas and then you train up the girls on what to say, or how does it work, David?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of background to go over before we get to a telemarketing campaign, as you can probably imagine.
Yes.
I'd want to know a lot more about your business, your clients. Have you got some case studies perhaps? Do you want more of the sort of business you're currently doing, or do you want to branch out into a different area of financial services, if you like, if I can call it that? Do you have any geographic constraints? Are there any...
Next door would be good. Well, not next door.
Exactly. Sometimes there are, and sometimes you don't have. Yeah? There's all sorts of influences that we can put into a telemarketing campaign to start targeting the right sort of prospects for you. Yeah. So if you just want to talk to SMEs, great. If John over there wants to just talk to corporates, great. But remember, there'll be different ways of closing the appointments. Because for SMEs, for example, generally speaking, you would speak to probably the business owner or the FD, something like that, and you'll get a decision fairly rapidly as to whether they want an appointment or not. With corporates, a lot of the decision making is by committee. Yes, have great big committees, subcommittees, before they even get to the stage of do we want an appointment. So you have to tackle it differently. And again, I can't remember the last time we did a telemarketing campaign without other backup media, usually email. Usually email. Because if it's slightly technical what you do, then instead of trying to get that across on the telephone, which could be difficult, then perhaps an email would be better, a follow-up email. Okay.
Where do you get these lists from, or do you provide lists, or?
For the data. Well, once we've gone over all the targeting, as I just described, and worked out the strategy and all that sort of stuff, there are more data brokers out there than you can shake a stick at.
Yes. Yes, I've seen them on the web, but do you have your own particular database, or do you just use whoever's appropriate?
I have my favourites, I do have my favourites, but it depends on the sort of data we want. If it's email data, for example, and it's UK only, then I'll probably go to maybe one of 2 or 3 companies.
Right.
If it's telemarketing, and it's just some list cleaning, then I'll probably go for whoever's the cheapest, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
I'd imagine
Thank
you're
you.
familiar with, is it CTPS? Some sort of scheme companies can sign into so that this, can't happen.
Are you talking about telephone preference service?
Well, mentally so.
Yes.
I keep getting stuff sent back to me, so, CTPS. How do you get around that?
Well, if a company is registered on the TPS scheme, then you're not allowed to call them.
It shows on the database,
It's
doesn't it?
as simple as that. And if you're going to a data broker, they shouldn't provide you with anybody on the TPS. So if you register on the TPS, you as a company, there is a lead time of about a month. It's 28 days before you're officially on the list, because that's the admin time. However, if you know somebody personally, if you've got a current client, for example, who's on the TPS, you're more than you can call them because they're a current client, and in fact they'll probably be very upset if you haven't called them. So it's horses for courses. But to answer your question directly, if someone's on the TPS and they don't want to be called, then just don't call them.
But that's putting, I'm talking generally now, that's putting pay to a lot of business in the UK. If someone signs up, I don't want anyone contacting me. How can a business grow?
Quite possibly, but there are ways around it. There are ways around it. If you do want to speak to a particular company or a particular person, then it's called a rifle shot rather than a bit of a blunderbuss approach. So we'd have a different type of conversation about that. Any more for any more?
Well, sorry to trouble the way, but
Through the bacon sandwich.
really just follow up on that. I mean, do you, on the numbers of companies that are on that preference service, I mean, how many are there? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I wouldn't have thought it was that many, is it?
It's not. It's not. Because most companies these days actually do want to be contacted. They do realise that they have to engage perhaps with clients and suppliers and prospects, and there's not that many. There are some, but I think they'll change their minds in the course of time anyway.
If you want, I've got a TPS on my home phone because all my clients. No, it's home. My home.
Does it work?
No, this is the problem. It started not to work, so calls are now getting filtered through, even though I'm on the TPS. And that shouldn't happen, should it?
Yeah, it's not me.
No, I know it's not you. But would you have to go back and reapply or
I'll tell you what it probably is, right? Obviously I've not fielded any of these calls, but the TPS is UK and EU legislation. If the call comes from outside,
It often says international, yes.
then if you like, the TPS isn't effective.
Ah, that's.
Yeah, if the call's coming from the Cayman Islands or
I don't know,
Nigeria
it just
or-
says
yeah,
international.
or wherever.
But these call centres are aware of TPS, because if you say to them, I'm TPS registered, they ring off.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I mean, you know, I'm talking here business to business. This is we only do
Yeah.
business to business.
No, I was just curious about.
But yeah, the TPS.
Interesting
Obviously,
point though.
yeah, yeah. If it's an international call outside the EU, then the TPS isn't effective.
Right.
And I'm not quite sure what you can do about that. Probably
No.
not a lot.
No, every time I see it. But I've got friends who live abroad and I always think, oh, it's
Exactly.
them.
David, can I ask a question? You
Of
say
course.
that you need 87 calls a day, 87 a week,
Yeah,
and that can be done in a day.
yeah.
Yeah.
How many people have you got working on that project, or is it just one person making 87 calls a week?
Right.
Is it one telemarketer, or have you got a bank of telemarketers all doing the same job?
Right, I'm not quite sure I've understood the question, but this is all hypothetical. And all
Yeah.
I'm saying is, I have a number of telemarketers work for me. Yeah, it could be anywhere. I mean, the least we have working on a daily basis is probably about 3 or 4. Yeah, averaging about 9, 10, 11, 12. We've gone up to 30 odd in any one day. And the whole point of this is just one telemarketer on an average campaign will make 87 calls, not in a week, in a day. That's an approximately daily rate for the volume of calls. Yeah, it's just one measurement. If it's lower than 80 on an average sort of campaign, would I be pleased with that or would I not be pleased with that? I'd probably be fairly pleased with it because it means she's talking to more people,
Yeah.
or he's talking to more
The
people.
conversations could be longer.
So when I look at the next column, perhaps, exactly, which is the number of appointments made, for example,
Yeah.
that should be higher. So the lower that figure, the higher the appointment figure. Yeah? If she's making too many calls, he or she, the telemarketer, if they're making too many calls on a daily basis, it probably means they're not being very effective.
But then again, you can take that a stage further, then look to see if the business has closed at the end of the sales process, to feed it back in to see how accurate.
That's right, that's the sort of conversation I have with my clients after the event, if you like, because we take this, this is just part of the sales process. Okay, we don't go along to the sales meetings, we don't close it, we have no effect, if you like, on client pricing, for example. So, yeah, there's all sorts of other reasons why you may or may not close business. Our job is just to develop the opportunities for you, and you pick up the cudgel from that point onwards. Yeah. Okay, well, look, thank you very much for this morning. It's now 10:30. I know we started a little late, but thank you for your attention.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Talking about it informally.